Hey boo, it's your girl Blue, ready for Dreadlocks number 2. Okay, so I am here to tell you how you can do your own dreadlocks for less than $10. $10, by the way, is New Zealand dollars, or Australian dollars, which is close, not the same, but pretty close. So if we're talking in pounds, it's half that. So like roughly £5, you can create your own dreadlocks. Super cheap, super easy, by the way. I taught myself watching YouTube tutorials, just kind of combining different techniques from different videos to create my own method. So I will go through everything that you need to create dreads, and it's super, super easy. So first of all, I am going to do 2 different techniques just to show you the difference. And this is to dreadlock straight hair, by the way, because I have straight hair myself. So these are the methods that work for me. So I'm going to start off with backcombing technique, and then I'm also going to do twist and rip technique, not only to show you the 2 different methods, but also to compare them, see what looks better, how much length I lose, all those kinds of things. In order to do the backcombing method, I suggest getting a metal fine tooth comb. As you can see, this is just a flea comb from Kmart, Walmart. I think this is from Big W, which is an Australian store that I had never heard of before until I moved here. It was $5, which is more than I wanted to spend on a metal comb. You can actually get them cheaper if you can find them. So that's already half of my $10 spend. If you can get a cheaper one, that obviously brings the price down. Don't get a plastic one with plastic teeth because they will potentially just break off. It's easier with metal. However, if you want to use plastic, I got this 6-pack comb set for only $1.99 just at your old, you know, bargain store down the road. It comes with many combs in it, so if they break, you've just got more to use, which is fantastic. The reason I got it was for this. We need that for the sectioning. The next thing you need is a pack of tiny little rubber bands. I got this pack, it's a 500 pack, way more than you will ever need, but obviously if they break, snap, whatever, you've got loads spare. This was only £1 from Primark in England. That's $2 if we're going to convert to New Zealand dollars. So all up so far, we've spent $5 on a comb, $2 on this, that's $7. Next up, we have a crochet hook. I recommend getting a 0.5mm crochet hook. I got mine from Spotlight in New Zealand, which is a fabric store, but you can get these online for around $3 to $4. So I've said I had spent up to $7. This is $3. You've got your $10. And as I've said before, I'm doing the 2 different techniques, backcombing and twist and rip. If you're doing the twist and rip method, you don't even need a comb. So that's even less money. Literally, if you're doing twist and rip, all you need is the rubber bands for sectioning your hair, something to section with, and a crochet hook. That, my friends, is all you need. Now, my hair is already pre-sectioned. I couldn't actually, you can do it yourself, but I didn't trust myself to see, you know, further back, and I wanted to make sure my sections were perfect because I'm a perfectionist. So of course I got Elizabeth to section my hair last night while she was home. So here on the screen is the guideline picture that I used to section my hair. This is what I used last time I did my dreads back in 2014 and it worked so well. The reason I recommend this particular pattern, the bricklayer pattern, as you can see they're slightly offset from each other each row that you go back, and the reason for that is so you don't have clean part lines in your hair. I just think that looks kind of, I don't know, I just don't like it, and so it like creates a slightly messier, more natural look. But also I made sure that I have an odd number of dreads at the front because I don't like to part my hair down the middle. So I've sectioned it into 3 dreads at the front and then 4 behind, and then I'm not sure 5 behind that because my hair kind of goes wider around there and then comes back around to a point at the back. And obviously with this guideline picture I've just used the top of the head bit because I have my undercut. Last time I did my dreads I had a full head of hair, so we used that guide for the entire head. There are other ways to section your hair, so feel free to Google that, research up on the different sectioning methods, but this is the one that I like and I'm really happy to go for it again. As I've said, I like to do an odd number of dreads in the front so that I can kind of part my hair slightly off center, depending if I want to flick my hair that way or that way, rather than perfectly in the middle. If you do want a middle part, then have an even number of dreads at the front. It's completely up to you. I have a little bit of scalp reaction going on from the bleach, so please just ignore that. My hair is still pink from the toner. Enough of all that jazz. Dread number 1, I'm going to start with the backcombing technique and I will show you what I do. So with backcombing, if you're teasing your hair for like a dance performance, you would start from the tip and work your way back to create as much mess and fluff as possible. With dreading, you don't want to do that because that creates too much volume and not enough length, and it's just messy. So obviously you want to try and create more of a tube of mess, and then start nearer the root. And there we go. Just pull it back systematically. Last time I did my dreads, I did the twist and rip method, so this is actually completely new to me. But I have done my research. And every now and again, just stop and check it. See how it's going. Look, I mean, it's already dreaded up. That was probably about 20 seconds worth. It's already creating a really nice tube. Just keep doing it really systematically. The closer you get to the end, the thinner it's gonna get. So obviously I'm getting a bit too much build up now here, so I'm gonna go back to the root and try to bring it all in as close to the root as I possibly can. And there are these fluffy bits left over at the end, which I would pull in with my crochet hook, which is why the crochet hook is imperative to the process. That's a lot of length loss, and I don't know how I feel about that. So before I go any further, I'm gonna leave that and I'm gonna now try twist and rip, and I'm going to compare with you the difference in length loss. If they have to be that short, then they have to be that short. But I would rather not, if at all possible. With twist and rip, you're not actually ripping your hair. All you're doing is twisting your hair. I like to go away from my face, twist away, and then this is why it's called the rip, you rip them apart gently, because we don't want your hair to break. So it's called twist and rip, but it's really twist and part. Part the C's. And what's gonna happen is the knots are going to start to build up, and I'm going to go a little closer to the root just to get that building up. It seems more time consuming doing it this way, and it probably is, to be honest, but I have a feeling I'm going to be saving more length. So that's what you have to decide. Do you want to spend a bit longer on your dreads and have longer dreads in the end? Or do you not mind about length loss and you just want to get them done as quickly as possible? Last time I did my dreads, my hair was already bum length, so I didn't really need to worry about length loss. I still did twist and rip anyway, so it took a long time. Each time you pull apart, you need to make sure that you're not pulling the same two strands apart each time. So you want to keep combining them again and pulling two different bits apart. Otherwise, you're not actually going to get anywhere. You're not going to start building up any kind of knot. And you don't want to twist too much either, because then you just end up with a twisty braid kind of effect, which happened occasionally in my last set of dreads. It would be messy, 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 and then a little twist, and then messy, which was kind of cool, but it wasn't what I was going for. As the hair is getting closer to the end, it's getting thinner and thinner, and the dread is teetering out. So actually, yeah, no, I still have more length with the twist and rip, and actually it's more of a solid tube, whereas backcombing creates a bigger, wider tuft. I can tease that downwards, but I mean, what's the point? Twist and rip takes longer, but in my opinion, especially because I have super, super short hair, I think for me that's going to be the best method for today, and the cheapest. £1 hair ties and the $3 crochet hook. What is that? That's $5! Dreadlocks for $5, guys. You don't need to pay hundreds to go to a professional. You can just do it yourself. So what I'm going to do now, partway through the process, just to help create an even shape, is I'm going to palm roll. Literally just doing that with the dread between my hands. Some people will twist only in one direction, but because mine, like I am twisting to do the twist and rip, but mine don't rely on twisting to keep them maintained, because I think with curly hair and afro hair, that's more important. You need to twist them in order for them to stay tightly locked. With straight hair, nothing will keep them tightly locked apart from messing it up. So I'm messing it up, and what this does is it creates friction, i.e. warmth, and it tightens the knots even more. Heat really, really helps to set dreads. Look at that. Already it's looking like a proper dread. And that's before we've even done the crocheting. The end is the hardest part, because there's nothing to grab hold of. But be patient, it is worth it. I had my last set of dreads for 5 years. If you want to see me chopping them off and transforming my hair, click this video. But yeah, if you are going to have your dreads for a long period of time, if it's a permanent thing, then the patience taken to do a really good dread from day one is going to set you up for solid, perfect looking dreads for the rest of time. We are getting there. There's a little thin bit here. It's kind of gets a little bit thin there, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and try and just like bring that back a little bit. As you can see, the knots are already pretty tight. I can't do much with this comb anymore. I can bring the hair closer to the root, maybe a little bit. But honestly, backcombing versus twist and rip, it's one or the other. You can't really do both, except maybe at the bottom, just to help that last little bit. Oh yeah, look at that. That's helpful then. Having the comb for the end bit, that might be my saving grace. There we go. There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. One dread. No, I'm kidding. That's only halfway done. So just keep palm rolling, keep that friction going. Keep rolling, 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 yeah! Rolling, 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 come on! Goodness gracious me! That's delightful. Now I'm going to go through the crochet hook method. Now, I have a video on maintaining your dreadlocks which goes into detail about the crocheting method. So head up here if you want to see that. That's for tidying up your roots once you have dreads, but it's pretty much the same thing. So I'm not going to go into heaps and heaps of detail today, but I am going to, as I'm crocheting, I'm going to keep twisting my dreads. I'm going to twist it round the same direction I've been twisting with the twist and rip, just to get it as tight as possible. Not too tight so that you can't actually get the crochet hook in there. I'm really fast at this because I've been doing it for 5 years. But if you want to know what I'm doing, watch that video. The root's done already. That was about 30 seconds. I cannot tell you how good it feels to have a dreadlock between my fingers. I've only been without them for 3 months, but it felt like an eternity because it's not me. I'm not myself without dreads. This, it feels like I'm clutching a part of me that I lost. And like, I'm having a reunion right now. It's like a really beautiful thing. I didn't know you could be so emotionally attached to dreadlocks, or to your hair even. So many times throughout my life, I would see girls crying over cutting their hair and I'd be like, it's just hair, it'll grow back. But now I understand, because dreadlocks are me. And without them, oh, honestly, it really affects you deeply. It sounds stupid, but it does. I've sectioned my hair into 24 dreads. It's gonna take a while. I'm not gonna film the whole thing. I'll just finish one so that I can show you what the end result will look like, and then I'll pop back when they're all done. If you're doing this with a friend, great idea to pop on a movie, get some snacks, have a bit of a party with it, you know? Now, one other thing I'm noticing as I'm crocheting down from the root, start at the root and bring it down, because that obviously helps with the creating that tube of hair. As I'm coming down, the knots are loosening. So if you want to tighten them up again by doing a bit more of that twist and rip to keep bringing them up, although now that they're so tight, that's kind of difficult. So you can get that comb, really pull them up there, because it's getting thinner and thinner near the end. So you want to make sure that you don't lose too much of that volume. Now, as you get to the very bottom, it's going to be almost impossible to crochet it all together. It is going to be a little bit messy, so don't stress about that, because I'm going to do another video on how to blunt your tips and make them super, super tidy, if that's what you want. If you want them to just hang out and be messy, that's cool. If you just want a little bit of natural hair at the bottom, that's awesome. Like, you can do whatever you want. They're your dreadlocks, it's your hair. There is no right or wrong. Cool, so there we have it. It only took me about 15 minutes to do one dread. So keep palm rolling, keep crocheting, and yeah, you're done. Just like that. Oh, and this is exciting. I'll still be able to tie these babies up. Now, let's compare with the middle one, just to see how much length I have actually lost. I haven't actually lost all that much, guys. Only a couple of centimeters, although when you blunt your tips, if I'm gonna blunt all the way up here, then you're gonna end up losing a lot more. So in the end, you might lose that much hair. Let's say 5 centimeters, I'm being generous. It's not actually that much, especially if you don't blunt the tip. So I reckon between 3 to 5 centimeters is what you should expect to lose in length if you do twist and rip. If you do back comb like I did with this one, obviously you can see the length I would have lost is so much more. So I'm just gonna like gently brush this out a little bit and do the twist and rip method, because I don't want to have teeny tiny little dreads. So that is my verdict for now. I will pop back when they're all done. So here we have the finished result of my dreads. It took me about 10 hours roughly. I did it in 2 different days, so maybe like roughly 5 hours each day. And I'm a perfectionist, so it doesn't actually have to take you that long if you don't mind them being a little bit more messy, but I like them being kind of tidy and look like as close to real dreads as possible at the early stages. So now I'm just going to go quickly through what you can expect when you do your own dreadlocks and sort of how to take care of them, that kind of thing. Okay, so when you're crocheting, you will probably experience quite a lot of pain nearer to the scalp because you are pulling on the hairs, and so naturally it is going to hurt a little bit, but don't stress too much. Obviously just take it in your stride, do what is more comfortable for you. When you start crocheting, until you build up your own method, you will probably find that you'll catch the crochet hook on your thumb quite a lot, and you'll get a bit of a raw thumb and you might even bleed. That is normal. I don't do that anymore because I've created a method for me that works that doesn't catch my thumb, but you'll find that most people who crochet have been through the raw thumb process. You will lose quite a bit of length in your hair, so make sure that you start with longer hair than you would like when you have dreads. If you want super short dreads, then you only really need, how much length did I lose? I only lost about 4 centimeters. So as long as you've got more than that to start with, then you'll be fine. But if you want longer dreads to start with, you're gonna have to grow your hair out quite a lot before you get started. It is time consuming. As I said, my short hair took about 10 hours. So if you've got longer hair, it's gonna probably take a little bit longer. So the best thing is to get a friend on board that can cut the time in half, and you can have a party, watch some movies, and it'll just be a lot more fun. So in about the first year, they're gonna be really fluffy, which means that you need to maintain them a bit more regularly than after that point. I'm just gonna keep palm rolling them a couple of times a week. And crocheting, you don't wanna do too often because you wanna make sure that the hair just sort of naturally locks itself. So you gotta make sure they're clean so that they're not oily, because the more oily your hair is, the less likely it is to lock up. So make sure, nice and clean, keep that heat going, and that'll help them lock up. But they will be kind of fluffy and frustrating, and they will be kind of stiff and annoying for the first year-ish until they start to mature. So obviously I've got an undercut, but when I had my last set of dreads, I did them with a full head of hair, and what I noticed was the dreads at the bottom of my neck, they dreaded up a lot faster than the dreads on top because I was sleeping on them, they were rubbing against my shirts and things, and so they actually got really solid within the first couple of months, and they also got really flat because I was sleeping on them and I kept tying my hair up. So if you're like me and you want to keep tying your hair up, make sure they don't flatten. Keep rolling them to keep them cylindrical, because honestly, once they flatten and harden, it's really difficult to make them tubular again. It's almost impossible, so you just end up with flat dreads, and that's, in my opinion, not very nice. The great thing about dreads is that you don't need to wash them nearly as often. Obviously, I think clean dreads are good. They help your hair lock up, and also no one wants to smell yucky, so washing them semi-regularly is good. But as I said before, once every week, once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, whatever works for you. So keep them clean, but you don't have to wash every couple of days, especially because if you do that, they will start to unravel and it'll just be a super big pain to maintain. Dreads are itchy. You just have to deal with it. There are products you can get online, certain hairsprays, scalp sprays that will help the itch not be so intense. I personally have never gotten into something like that. I just scratch. It just comes with the territory. You just have to have an itchy scalp and you will get used to it. It's really hard to get used to, but it's kind of like if you've got a healing wound or something and the doctor tells you not to scratch it, that's just kind of how it feels. You just have to get used to it, and then it won't bother you nearly as often. The thicker you section your hair, so the more hair you have in the dread, the easier it will be to knot them up. So if you want tiny dreads and you have straight hair, it's going to be really difficult to knot them up. It's not impossible, it's just a lot more difficult. Especially I was noticing even crocheting my hair. I noticed that with the thicker ones, it was super easy and fast, but with the thinner ones, it took a lot longer to get any kind of knots happening because you're just working with a lot less hair. So if you want to have quicker forming dreads and you don't mind about the thickness, I would say go for thicker sections. Mine are like sort of medium sections. They look super huge and fluffy at the moment, but they will condense over time. Despite all of those cons though, the major pro is that they look dope as fuck. So honestly, just go for it. You will feel and look amazing. You will get looked at in the streets, not as a weirdo, but as someone that people admire. Honestly, the attention I get from having dreads is so amazing and I adore it. When I didn't have dreads for the last 3 months, it actually felt like I wasn't me because nobody was looking at me. It's weird, but as a dreadlocked person, you see someone else with dreads and you have this mutual like, it's kind of like seeing a member of your own family and you like acknowledge each other as you walk on by, and I didn't have that. I would see people with dreads and look at them and they wouldn't even notice me, and it was very odd. But yeah, it's honestly, it's the best thing having dreads, and if you really want them, just go for it. The cons are not even worth thinking about. Now I'm going to address some myths that you might hear about dreadlocks. Myth number 1, dreads are dirty. they are not dirty if you clean them. You can have free-form dreads that basically means you just leave your hair and you don't wash it, you don't brush it, you just kind of let them form however they form. That is dirty, and that's okay if that's what you want. But dreads don't have to be dirty. These are completely wax, product free, and I will be washing them regularly, so they will be 100% clean. Myth number 2, you need wax. As I've said, these are completely wax free, so that's a total myth. You do not need wax. Wax is kind of like an archaic thing now with dreads. It is a method that people used to use before they discovered the beauty of the crochet hook. Myth number 3 is that you need special shampoo. You don't actually. After using that, I actually just went back to using regular old shampoo that you can buy from the supermarket, and it didn't actually make any difference whatsoever. And the final myth that I've heard so many times is that white people can't have dreadlocks. Well, I am proof that we can. Obviously, there's the question of cultural appropriation. Any kind of hairstyle can be locked up, and I've heard from black people who say that absolutely anyone can lock their hair. Yeah, if you like it, just go for it. Cool, well that's everything guys. If you have any other questions, please just ask me in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as I possibly can. And good luck with your dreads. Please send me photos if you want to, because I would be really, really keen to see how they turn out. And happy dreading, guys.